Be sure to follow us on Instagram at CriminalAFPod or click on the link in the episode description. In this episode, we take a look at alternate theories involving the Manson family that have gained momentum and plausibility over the years. I'm Dave Jari.
I'm Garrett Corder.
And this is Criminal as Fuck. What's good, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Criminal AF. Once again, I am Dave Jari, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Garrett Corder.
How we doing?
So, I'd like to clear up a discussion Garrett and I had in the last episode on what makes first-degree murder and why it applied to Manson. In my example, I said that if me and Garrett were driving along and I shot and killed someone and, you didn't report it, that would make you just as
liable for
first-degree murder. But that explanation more so describes felony murder, not first-degree murder. So our friend Follow Flint on Instagram, who is currently in law school, explained the following. In order to charge first-degree murder, all parties must have what they call mens rea, which is Latin for guilty mind. Meaning that you have to have the intent to commit murder, and actus rea, which is Latin for guilty act, which is the act or omission that compromises the physical element of a murder. So Follow Flint says that in the case for Manson, he wanted people killed, which is the mental intent of committing murder.
Gotcha.
And he instructed people to do it, which was the action.
You know what's hilarious? What? All I'm thinking about right now is that you have to learn Latin to go to fucking law school. I thought I could be a lawyer this whole time. I'm not learning Latin. Dude, that's awesome. Shout out to the criminals out there. That's amazing that if we fucks up, like, I like that they check us like, hey, no.
Check us.
Yeah, I like it. You learn something new every day.
So in this example, in extension, Tex and the others followed through on his wishes and committed the actual murders. It's similar to a husband who hires a hitman to kill his wife.
Yeah.
The husband didn't actually pull the trigger, but
you basically set the murder up.
He put it out there in the universe.
Yeah, so you're going down. If you tell me that you killed somebody in a car, you're going down. I'm not going down.
I mean, you'll get something if you don't report it.
Conspiracy, whatever. I don't know, whatever. But,
So hopefully that gives a better understanding to why Manson was convicted of first-degree murder. And thanks again to Follow Flint for helping us out with that explanation.
Seriously, thank you, buddy.
Now, we have a few criminal shout-outs to give this week, and they go out to Maria Celine, Courtney Slay, Pickle Jenny, Sparky Shearer, and Beth Esselman. Thank you all so much for supporting Criminal AF. It means more to us than you know.
You guys rock.
You can become a criminal as well by joining our Patreon, or you can become a barista with a one-time contribution by visiting buymeacoffee.com and buy us one or more coffees to help us support the podcast. Links to both our Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee can be found at criminalafpodcast.com/support. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, this is a true crime podcast. There will be talk of murder, rape, torture, assault, and pretty much any crime that would haunt your nightmares at any given moment. There will be detailed descriptions of said events, and there will be vulgar language.
Like fuck.
Oh, man. Now, we understand that Criminal AF is not for everyone, but we just ask that you at least give it a listen. And if it's not for you, thanks for checking it out. But if it is, welcome to the debauchery. All right, everybody line up. It's time for mail call.
Mail call. Mail call.
So we post an AMA to our Instagram story every week for people to ask questions for a chance to be answered on the show, and the questions are piling up.
I love it.
So we're going to read a few of them here, and the first up is Maria Celine 26, and she asks, is there a story you won't touch? Maybe it's been overly covered or too gruesome.
I think we both talked about this, that we're probably going to try to stay away from the big guys. Obviously, we've done some big guys. There's so much information out there on Ted Bundy. Everybody knows the story. Everybody saw the Netflix. Jeffrey Dahmer, too, which was an amazing series on Netflix. And I'm so happy Evan Peters won the he was amazing. Golden Globe for Best Actor in a TV series, because he deserved that shit for that series. I think anybody who listens to this podcast 100% saw that series.
Right.
So, like Dahmer or those guys, it's just everybody knows the story.
Right.
Everybody knows.
It'd just be redundant.
Yeah.
There's no ground-shattering fucking information that's going to come out of it.
But see, we did Helter Skelter, the 3-part, but it was fun to get into it, too.
It was fun to get into
so
it.
Who knows?
Because this is, this story, I don't know. Bro, I got so deep in the fucking rabbit hole, you have no idea.
You're going to Don't storm the Capitol on me,
Yeah.
dude. Don't start following the cue boards, buddy.
But I would say, other than that, I do agree with the major names. But I would say anything that has to do with children. Like, I know we've done some episodes with kids involved and everything, but for somebody who specifically
Targets
children,
Yeah.
I have a very hard time.
Yeah, there's no point in even giving them the lane day.
Yeah, like I know a couple of our listeners have requested like Albert Fish and
You fucking weirdos.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe sometime in the future, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We kind of don't want to say we're not going to do something because
Right.
listen, there's no storyline in this podcast. We're winging this shit.
Right. So, but guys like that, I have a very difficult time with. So, thank you, Maria Celine 26, for that question, and we move on to Davitt. Once again, Davitt was in the last episode too. He wants to know how many total hours does it take to produce each episode on average?
Listen. This is a highly functioning mainstream podcast. All right, we got producers, we got lighting, we got Jamie. Listen, we crank out episodes within an hour. All right,
Yeah.
we send it to the editors send it back to us.
Let's just say it takes a long fucking time. Right?
Way longer than it should be.
way longer than it should. I would say each episode, if you're talking research, recording, writing the story, editing, producing, adding music, and all the little things that we do, on top of the schedule that we already work.
Yeah. We still work 60 hours a week.
Yeah. And it takes an entire. Our schedule is 4 days on, 4 days off. Typically, if we're not doing mandatory overtime or anything like that.
You mean we are doing mandatory
Yeah.
overtime?
So it takes every single day of our days off to freaking do this. So like when people at work are like, "Hey, did you check the new thing on Netflix?" I'm like, "Bro, I haven't seen a fucking TV in months."
It's true.
So yeah, it takes a long time, but hey, it's all worth it because
We enjoy it.
yeah. And, we get to hear from people like you guys, giving us encouragement and words of positivity, and it all makes it worth it, and it's great, and we love it. So thank you, Davitt. And now we go to Buffy F., who asks, serious question, mayo on a hot dog, yes or no?
Buffy?
Yeah.
You're absolutely crazy. No. No, there's not even a situation where mayo would be okay. Like, there's no mayo in something.
Yeah. Like, you
Oh my, that's...
you don't like mayo?
No, I love mayo.
Okay. Mayo on a burger?
On a burger,
Okay.
but just the thought of just spreading mayo on a hot dog.
See, when I first read this question, I thought of it in context
No.
of in a hot dog bun.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it.
All right. So, have you ever had beanie weenies?
No. Paint the picture for me
It's
here.
baked beans with hot dogs.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Well, being the old Canadian French, we make do with whatever we have, growing up. We did beanie weenies with mayo. You mix the mayo in with the baked beans. Don't look at me like that.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, so you mix the mayo in with your beanie weenies. So in that case, yes, I mean mayo with a hot dog, but not on a bun.
No. See, when I first hear this, I think of them just taking mayo and spreading it all over.
Lathering it all over.
That is disgusting. Sorry. That's going to be a no for me. Yeah, obviously, Dave loves it, so, it's 50-50 over here at the Criminal AF.
I will say it depends on the situation. And then Iron Chickadee asks, what time is it on the moon? I do have an actual answer for this.
Do you really? Because I have. If I had my Speedmaster on right now, I would definitely be able to tell you, but I don't. So. I would have been able to pull that out real quick. Like I would have been cool.
I want to hear what you think it is.
What time is it on the moon? All right. So I'm trying to think of some interstellar shit right now.
Okay.
As we get away, time skips forward.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, back. Wait, yeah, time skips forward.
So our time is based on the Earth's rotation around the sun.
Yeah, so
and its own axis and everything.
Yeah,
like that.
so the moon would be off of its axis.
The moon rotates around the Earth.
Way faster, so time would go faster.
You ready for the answer?
Yeah, just give me it.
Okay. There is no interstellar time. Time is meaningless in space. So
yeah, but here's the thing.
whatever time it's called universal time.
No.
This is the actual thing. It's called universal time, and it's based off of the East Coast of the United States time zone.
Oh,
so like Florida, where NASA is.
So it's 2:10 on the moon right now.
It's 2:10 in the moon right now.
Okay, sweet.
Yep.
Make it easy. That's not true though.
How is that not true?
That's
how they base it.
No, I know, but it's not
so
true.
when you have like Americans and Russians and Chinese and everybody, they go out in space and they're circling around the Earth. And,
I'm with you.
And like they go to the moon or whatever. That's the time. The universal time is Eastern Standard Time in the United States.
I saw Matthew McConaughey go to a black hole and he aged 40 years. Okay, it's not true.
So, yeah, it's 2:10 on the moon as we're speaking right now. All right, and then Ryan Bishop, he wants to know. We're going to get a little edgy on this one. If you could commit murder for 24 hours with no punishment or judgment, would you?
Jesus Christ. What self-incriminating, would I commit murder if it was legal for, like a purge situation, I think?
Like a purge, yeah.
No.
No?
No.
I have a list, bro.
That's terrifying. No, because, I mean, at that point, hypothetically, if there's like murder's legal for 24 hours, I'm just worried about protecting my family for that 24 hours. I'm not going out in the street now. I'll put myself in a different situation. I have nothing to lose.
It's just you.
I might, at the end of it's the movie. This is the end.
Yeah.
I might be walking around with Shannon Tatum on a leash. At the end of.
Oh, yeah.
If I had nothing to lose for. Shannon Tate, yum. Yeah, no, I'm gonna say no.
You gonna say no?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say yes.
Are you saying you would go after people that deserved it?
Correct.
Oh, so now we're just vigilantes in here.
People who have wronged me in my life. If I could get away with it. See ya. Like if I found out right now, if I had cancer, right? And I had
Dave,
a month to live.
I'm sorry to tell you this.
Yeah.
You have a month to live. Yeah, poor doctor. Who gives you that? You wronged me.
Yeah, like it's the pettiness inside me that I refuse to die before any of these pieces of shit that fucking wronged me in my life live longer than I do. Fuck you.
I'm with you. I hear you. I understand.
I'm gonna get a psych eval.
You're definitely getting brought in the office. Hey, Dave.
It's not to say no, not that I would do it.
No. I know what you mean. I know exactly
If
what
I
you
could
mean.
get away with it.
Give me the Cape Crusader.
All right, we got one last one, and it's from Joe T. Jari. Why does that name sound familiar? Jari. He has a 2-part question. How do you figure out which story to do? And Dave, who is your favorite brother?
Oh, so yeah.
Gee, I wonder.
You gotta say him now.
Huh?
You have to say him now. You know.
Well, I have another brother.
I know, but you have to say him. Like
I gotta say Joe.
Yeah, he commented in the pod. He's supporting the podcast.
He is supporting the podcast.
You know.
So yeah, my brother Paul hasn't. No, I can't say that because he has shared it on Facebook. My brother Paul. So I would have to say my favorite brother.
Yikes! This might be
a
little controversial. You might want to keep this one.
I'm gonna say me.
Boom.
I'm a brother.
Great answer.
I'm a brother.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Great
so
answer.
I'm my favorite brother.
I don't know those two, but
yeah.
I'll say Dave Jari too.
I mean, the other two they're okay. They're all right.
Shots fired.
I'll keep them around for a while. But as far as the first part of the question goes, how do you figure out which story to do? It's basically random, to be honest. Listener requests, gets added. I come up with a general list of episodes that I would like to do. Like, after this one, I have like 7 or 8 episodes that are in the queue. But what order they come out in,
who knows?
Depends. But, basically I just scroll through the internet,
Yeah,
we find something interesting.
We both hear a fucked up story. We're like, dude.
Yeah, we're like, oh, we gotta do this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and just our past experience, like this episode that we've been doing, the Manson, I mean, this is Garrett's favorite, so I was like, fine, Garrett, Jesus, well, fucking do it, all right?
Yeah, that's basically how it goes. He's not lying.
So thank you everybody for your questions. Keep them coming in.
Appreciate it.
We'll post another Ask Me Anything prior to the next episode.
All right, Dave, you ready for our trip to Florida?
Let's do it.
All right, today, this one man's a little different. This man was never caught. This crazy son of a bitch is still out in the wild.
Really?
Yes. Breaking news. WINK News. Live at 5. Man breaks into Joe's Crab Shack in Fort Myers, defecates on the floor. Maybe you shouldn't get the shaken crab basket. A man defecated on the floor of a restaurant in Fort Myers after breaking in early Saturday morning and stealing alcohol and other items. The Fort Myers Police Department needs help identifying this suspect. According to the FMPD, around 2:30 a.m. on Saturday, the suspect climbed through a small window at Joe's Crab Shack on 2024 West 1st Street in Fort Myers. The suspect then stole various items, including alcohol, and defecated on the floor of the restaurant before leaving. Why you gotta poop on the floor?
I mean, I can understand that, because what if you had a nervous stomach? Robbing a place is,
you gotta be
is a
nerve-wracking.
pretty big deal. You know what I mean? So the anxiety gets to you. You know, you try to rush, and you get a little bubble gut in the process.
The suspect is seen in a red hat, gray sweatshirt, light-colored shorts, sunglasses, and white shoes. It's very insane and disgusting. I just don't understand how anyone could do something like this. That's really disgusting, and yeah, it's one of those Florida man stories that puts us on the map, said store owner. Shout out to the Florida man.
Shout out.
There's other ways to go about making a name for yourself than doing something like that, so hopefully they catch this guy. If you have any information about the mystery pooper, contact FMPD or Southwest Florida Crime Stoppers at 1-800-780-TIPS. You know what would be fantastic?
See,
Wait, hold on. You know what would be fucking fantastic? If this guy gets caught because he's recognized by one of the criminal AF fan base, I would be like, yes, we're doing the Lord's work over here in this podcast.
What's funny is that we sometimes, we had a couple people say, why Florida? Why are you guys picking on? We're not picking on Florida.
No.
Like every single state in the United States, and I'm sure, our listeners in Australia, New Zealand, Great Britain, wherever, can understand that there's a section of your country where it's just a congregation of all walks of life.
Yeah, I could easily search craziest news stories from around the world, and there's going to be crazier ones. Right. But it's just it's become like a meme here about Florida, the Florida man. It's a legend. You know what I mean?
It's funny because, for those that don't know, is Florida, because of its weather, location, everything like that. You have people from up north retiring down to Florida. You have random people, because of the weather, going, moving to Florida, colleges, everything. So you get a plethora of.
It's a biodome.
Of people, and sometimes. Along with that, some fucking crazy ass people go there.
It's true, but the true Floridians are usually the best ones. Yeah. let's be honest.
Oh man, that's fucking hilarious.
But have you ever been to Joe's Crab Shack?
I've never been.
You've never been?
No.
It's pretty good.
Is it?
But now I'm not going to be able to go there without thinking about a guy just taking a shit in the middle of a restaurant.
You walk in Joe's Crab Shack, you looking at the floor, making sure you're not stepping in.
The shake baskets are pretty good.
No, Joe's Crab Shack, is that like Waffle House?
No, it's...
I mean, in the essence, where Waffle House, you go into a Waffle House and the food is so fucking good. The place is a dump, but it's so fucking good.
You might get shot while you're having your delicious waffles. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but the griddle probably hasn't been cleaned in fucking 3 months.
No, I would say Joe's Crab Shack's a little bit more upscale.
A little upscale.
Yeah, it's like a Texas Roadhouse-esque. It's like
okay. Yeah.
It's a fancy chain compared to. It better be if you're getting crab baskets. Yeah, Waffle House is that's what I mean. The only time to go there is after the strip club at 3 a.m. Right? That's the Waffle House the way.
Oh man! All right, so let's get into this episode. Now we're doing alternate theories. So these are, for all intents and purposes, are not proven. Are not, it's merely speculation. We're not saying that any of these theories are true, if they're false. However, there could be some that are true.
It's for fun. This is for fun. Just humor us. I know people are going to be like, some people are going to be like, come on, guys. That's not, but, we're just having fun with it.
Yeah. So, but it is good to note that, because in my opinion, the whole helter-skelter theory is the most far-fetched one out of all of these.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as we discuss, as we go a little bit further into this episode, there are detectives, attorneys who were close to the case who basically are calling the prosecutor, Vincent Bugliosi, a fucking crackpot because of this fucking helter-skelter theory. Like, we have the drug theory, we have the copycat theory, we have the MK Ultra theory, we have, this is, helter-skelter is actually crazier than the MK Ultra theory.
Yeah. It's funny how that one just stuck,
Right.
Just...
Nope. We're going with this theory and we're sticking with it.
Which, we talked about in the earlier episode, too, is the prosecution's going to use whatever they need to convict these people and get it done with. They're not going to, so...
Yeah.
So,
you got to think of the time, too. It's 1969. It's Los Angeles. The L.A. riots were just a few years earlier in 1965.
Yeah, it fits the whole bill.
Right. And, and then you had, the Summer of Love. So you have the racism. You have the fucking hippie culture. You have, all this kind of shit. So, oh, this guy's fucking crazy enough. He's a fucking cult leader. He's a hippie. He's a fucking racist. Let's piece it all together, and he's going to start a race war.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Now look what acid will do to you kids. Don't take it. Schedule 3.
Say no to drugs. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump right into this episode with our first theory, the copycat theory. On August 6, 1969, just days before the Tate LaBianca murders, Manson family member Bobby Beausoleil was found by police sleeping in the back of a Fiat on the side of Highway 101 in San Luis Obispo. When questioned, Bobby stated that the car had broken down the night before and he was waiting for daylight to fix it. Police knew this was a lie, as the Fiat was reported stolen from the home of a murder victim. Bobby was taken into custody and questioned about his possible involvement in the murder of Gary Hinman. Hinman was born December 24, 1934 in Colorado. He was known as a Renaissance figure of the hippie movement, a political activist, Zen Buddhist, musician, piano teacher, who was working towards his PhD in sociology at UCLA, and he was also a Manson family associate who allegedly had a mescaline lab in his basement. Hinman was found dead in his home at 964 Old Topanga Canyon Road on July 31, 1969, slashed across the left side of his face and stab wounds through his heart. Why the murder of Hinman, who was a friend of Beausoleil, occurred is up for debate. Charlie himself said it was because Hinman owed the family money, which he refused to give. But Beausoleil himself gave a more detailed explanation. Charles Manson had befriended members of the Straight Satan Motorcycle Club and used them as protection after he shot a small-time drug dealer named Bernard Crow, who Manson thought was also a member of the Black Panthers. Manson believed he had killed Crow and feared the Black Panthers would seek retribution. In fact, Crow, who was not a member of the Black Panthers, survived the shooting and went into hiding. Beausoleil, who was trying to impress both Manson and the Straight Satans, set up a drug deal with his friend Gary Hinman on behalf of the motorcycle club. Beausoleil purchased the drugs from Hinman and delivered the goods to the Straight Satans. The drugs allegedly turned out to be bad, and the club demanded their money back from Beausoleil. Manson had told Beausoleil to return to Hinman, along with Susan Atkins and Mary Brunner, both of whom had a sexual relationship with Hinman, and force him to hand over $20,000 Manson believed he had. For 3 days, the trio kept Hinman hostage in his own home, demanding the money, with Beausoleil roughing up Hinman while the girls would care for him. At some point, with Hinman still not cooperating, a call was made to Manson. Charlie arrived, along with Bruce Davis. Hinman excitedly yelled, "Charlie!" He was happy to see Manson, who Hinman liked and thought his presence meant a reprieve from the abuse. Allegedly, Manson stormed in and sliced Hinman across the face with a Confederate sword and demanded Hinman sign over his cars and the home to Manson. Unknown to Charlie, Beausoleil had already convinced Hinman to do so. Manson left as quickly as he arrived. For the remainder of the weekend, Beausoleil and the girls were trying to fix the gash on Hinman's face, with Hinman persistent that he needed to go to the hospital. Finally, Beausoleil called Manson and said, "Look, man, you left me with this problem. You came and cut the guy. There was no need for that. It's your problem. Manson responded back, you handle it. You know what you need to do as well as I do. Beausoleil then grabbed his knife and stabbed Hinman twice through his heart. Beausoleil, Atkins, and Brunner then staged a home to appear as if the Black Panthers had killed Hinman in retaliation for the Crow shooting. They drew a panther paw print on the wall in Hinman's blood and wrote the words, "Political Piggy." After Beausoleil was arrested for the murder of Hinman, Manson panicked. He felt that Beausoleil would pin the murders of Hinman and Bernard Crowe on him, as at the time Manson didn't know that Crowe was still alive. Who came up with the plan is up for debate, but the stage was set. 3 days after Beausoleil's arrest, the family would commit copycat murders at the Tate and LaBianca homes in order to prove that Beausoleil didn't kill Hinman, as these apparently similar murders were committed while Beausoleil was in custody. Police didn't pick up on the similarities, and the rest is history. Vincent Bugliosi's case theory and subsequent book, Helter Skelter, which happens to be still the #1 true crime book ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yep. So the narrative that Manson wanted to create a race war wasn't a popular theory among those closest to the case, including the detectives and other prosecutors, as we talked about earlier. They believe that Bugliosi created and embellished the Helter Skelter theory based loosely on ramblings from a few family members, Manson's known racism, and his pinpoint recital of the Bible. So he basically just took those things and pieced it into this whole fucking elaborate theory of creating a race war. Now, Bugliosi himself admitted just prior to his death that he didn't think that Manson believed in a fantastical world of living in a pit while a worldwide race war wages on.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
You know, many involved with the case, you know, they stand by the copycat theory, but they didn't have the power to overrule Bugliosi because he was the lead, whatever. Now, does this make Manson and the others innocent? Absolutely not.
No.
Like, they still committed the murders under Charlie's direction, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Charlie's still... He's not an idiot. He knows he's trying to manipulate these people. He's gonna tell his fucking lunatic followers whatever stories and biblical events that they want to hear. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to like latch on to what he said. But this theory is the most I can see. It sounds very like, oh, we gotta get Bobby out of jail. Like, how can we do it? Right. It seems very plausible, more than Helter Skelter.
Oh yeah.
Also, too, I almost feel bad for Bobby in this situation, which you shouldn't, because he stabbed the guy 46 times or whatever it was. Yeah. But I mean, they were very close friends.
Yeah.
He felt horrible. He sat there with this guy for 3 days. Like they said, he held him hostage. I listened to the phone interview from Bobby, and he was like, yeah. After Charlie slashed him, I just felt kind of bad. He bled out for 3 days, and I just sat with him and told him it was going to be all right until I just ended it. That's horrible. I now who knows if he is just saying this to kind of take blame away from himself.
Correct. And
say Charlie was the main reason. Charlie started, with the slash on the face. But at the same time, it almost feels. I mean, obviously you can't go off of your own feelings, but it felt genuine from what he was saying in that interview.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing is that, and you see this with a lot of other family members. Even ones that weren't even committed in the murders. Like when Manson got arrested, and they all went off and lived their own lives or whatever. Like it took them years of therapy and reconditioning and everything to break basically the trance that Manson had on these people. Now, when you go into the context of the people that did the murders, like Bobby Beausoleil and Leslie and all them, like it took decades for them to finally come to the acknowledgement, like,
yeah, maybe Charlie's not a good person.
Yeah.
Deep down, there's probably still, that doesn't go away.
Yeah. Well, there are a few. There's Squeaky Fromm.
Yeah.
She actually went on after the whole Manson thing. I think in 1976, she went on to like quote unquote attempt to assassinate President Gerald Ford. Like she showed up with a gun and like pointed it right at him or whatever. There wasn't any ammo in the gun or something went wrong where she didn't, but she actually had a gun pointed right fucking.
The poor girl's wig was split after this whole thing.
Yes.
Who gets mescaline for a bunch of bikers that like to drink too? Come on, Bobby. You should have known. You're a druggie. You should have known that you shouldn't be mixing mescaline and alcohol. These guys were. It is kind of like reckless to get involved in that whole situation too. With a very. I mean, I know.
So the reason why the Straight Satans got involved in this whole fucking fiasco is because when Manson shot Bernard Crow.
Yeah.
And Manson started freaking out, like he thought he killed him, and that Crow was part of the Black Panthers. So he's like, "Damn, I need protection."
Well, all that was on the news that day was, Black Panther was shot and Black Panther's body was found, and he was just like, "I got him! I got him! They're gonna come after us!"
Right? It was a different guy. Yeah.
Dumbass didn't even know he didn't even killing him.
Yeah. He's like, "They're all gonna come here and murder us."
Yeah.
So they got involved with the Straight Satans, for protection, and then Bobby, who was kind of like a hanger-on with the Straight Satans, like he wanted to join their club.
Yeah.
He was like, "Hey, let me get you some."
Yeah, I'll get you some drugs. I know what I'm doing. But Bobby has, in the entire Manson family story, Bobby has always been the fuck up. If you look at like multiple stories, Manson always had like that big brother attitude towards him, like, "You fucking dumbass!"
Yeah.
Like he belittled this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he belittled every male figure in the family, but
Right.
Bobby got the brunt of all his mess ups.
Right. Yeah, Bobby was very like impressionable, where
Yeah.
I need to fit in with
Yes.
these people. I need to fit in with Manson. I need to fit in with the Straight Satans. Let me go out and fucking do all this
There's
shit.
something very primal about the whole thing too.
Like what?
Like your will, like, I got to do anything to be in this club.
Oh, yeah.
It's very like medieval times.
Right, yeah. I gotta be with the cool kids. So we'll go into the next chapter where we will discuss the Melcher theory. Terry Melcher, the son of Doris Day and his girlfriend Candace Bergen, lived at 10050 Cielo Drive before Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski. He had made his mark on the music industry by producing the first 2 albums from the Byrds, as well as hits from the Beach Boys. It was this connection that Terry had met Charles Manson. Beach Boy Dennis Wilson invited Melcher to his house when the family was staying there. Along with Wilson, Melcher's associate, Greg Jacobson, became fascinated with Charlie's philosophy and lifestyle and began urging Terry to record him. After a couple of meetings with Manson at Melcher's Cielo Drive home, Jacobson talked Melcher and a music executive into coming down to Spawn's Movie Ranch to hear Manson, Bobby Beausoleil, and the girls play and discuss the possibility of doing a documentary. A friend of Melcher's recalls, once Terry got to Spawn Ranch, he just wanted to get the hell out of there. It was filthy and very obvious that there was no talent. He sat and listened to Manson's girls while Charlie played the guitar. He felt like he had to get out and tried to make a graceful exit. During this audition, an associate of the family was belligerently drunk and was making a scene. Manson proceeded to beat the man bloody in front of his guests. Melcher, Jacobson, and the music executive left the ranch, never to return again. According to Jacobson, he stated, "I think Terry showed some interest in Manson's music, but there was never any 'yes, we will record you.' It was like that was the preliminaries, and nothing ever came of it." But Manson saw it another way. He claimed that Melcher made some big promises and never came through. To Charlie, it became clear that Melcher had failed him. It was Terry Melcher who denied him his chance to play his music for the world. This perceived slight would fester in Manson's mind for months. Another brush with fame fell through as well. Phil Kaufman, who had befriended Manson in Terminal Island Prison, had connections to the music industry, specifically a man named Gary Stromberg, who worked at Universal. Kaufman told Manson that upon his release, he would introduce Manson to Stromberg. Since Manson was to be released prior to Kaufman, he advised Manson to take some time to brush up on his songs, and when Kaufman was released, he would set up the meeting. However, Manson ignored the advice, and after starting his commune with the first 4 women, Manson made his own introductions to Stromberg. As expected, the audition went horrible. Despite this, Manson welcomed Kaufman into the family upon his release, and Kaufman shared in a plethora of women. They would party at Kaufman's friend's house, Harold True, on Waverly Drive, and spent countless nights there, playing music, doing drugs, and having orgies, and True would become an associate of the family for a time. Eventually, as time wore on, Manson could sense that Kaufman wasn't buying into the whole free love, anti-establishment concept that Manson was trying to create. The two had a falling out, so Kaufman left, and so did Manson's real connection to the music industry. Manson's anger would continue to build. According to the theory, Manson wanted revenge on the ones who he felt slighted him. Even though he knew Terry Melcher had moved, he targeted the Cielo Drive house as a message to send to Melcher. He did the same with Kaufman. Because Harold True's house was now vacant, Manson chose the house next door to send his message. But what about the murder of Gary Hinman? How does that play into all of this? Gary was a talented musician and piano player. According to Mother Mary herself, Mary Brunner, who was present during the Hinman murder, Manson wanted Hinman to join his band and felt Hinman's experience would help the band get a record deal. So Manson sent Hinman's friend, Bobby Beausoleil, to convince him, along with Susan Atkins and Mary Brunner, to seduce him. But after 3 days, Hinman still refused, infuriating Manson, who showed up, sliced his face, and ordered him killed. The thing I love about this theory is that there's a theory within a theory. Because, as we say, Mother Mary herself, Mary Brunner, she said that Hinman was killed because Manson wanted him to join his band. And he refused. So Manson's like, well, go fuck yourself then. Like, how crazy is that? You take all this, elaborate, helter-skelter and copycats and fucking bull and drug money and this and
it comes down, comes down to a soul just grudge. That's what I like, too, is he, my whole theory, what I don't truly believe it, but it's in the back of my head, is that he did this solely as a target at Hollywood elite because he just feels slighted by the entire music industry.
Right.
He didn't care. He just wanted to kill somebody famous.
The one issue that I have with this is that if Manson wanted, Terry Melcher and Hinman and all these other people, Harold True, if he wanted, all them dead, then why didn't they just go and do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I hate that house because he lived there one time.
Yeah.
I want to send him a message, so I'm going to kill these random fucking people.
Yeah, you would think you would just kill the people that you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
So while all of this makes sense, it's pretty cut and dry, it doesn't really sit right with me.
I also don't agree with him saying that Manson had no talent. I think his...
I enjoyed listening to his music.
Oh, you like cult leaders too? You like murdering cult leaders? No, I'm just fucking with you.
I don't know if anybody out there wants to join him. Hey, taking applications.
No, I don't. I think people were off-put by the person himself, especially if you're not someone that would normally blatantly follow somebody. Yeah. His aura probably was very creepy, and his aura is what attracted people to these
yes.
People that needed something in their life.
I think you have to be in order to be attracted to that. You have to be in a particular state of mind
at that time. Correct. Yeah. To get sucked in.
Right. So
an average person that's successful that's doing this thing and meets this guy, it was there's something weird about this guy.
This dude's a nut job.
Yeah. So I think that's what held him back in the industry. Nobody imagine those guys going back to their back to the recording studios. Like, hey, did you check out Charlie? And they're like, yeah, this fucking dude's weird as hell. Like, yeah, man, that guy's,
Yeah, because there were a lot of people who were like, yeah, this guy has something. Neil Young from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
You can't tell me that. I know it was just Dennis Wilson that was named multiple times, but there's no way that the other Beach Boys weren't hanging out at his house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And if he was that shitty of a fucking singer or a songwriter or anything, why did they? I think it's they have 3 songs of his.
Yeah, that or associated with Manson's writing and stuff like that. So you can't tell me that's. I think it was a cop out to say that he didn't have talent. I think they just didn't like the person who he was.
Yeah, and plus he had lots of drugs with him.
Yeah,
and women
who will do anything that he says.
Anything. anything. All right.
Might be a little smelly,
Yeah, it might be.
but we're gonna take it down anyway.
Dude, that brings up a whole nother subject. Like especially when they're living at Spawn Ranch. Like at this time, there's probably 100 at least of these family members that are in and out, whatever.
In and out, coming and going.
Like how many bathrooms and showers were available to these people? Like imagine 100 people using one shower a day.
Oof.
Like they had to go like days, if not
Sure.
fucking a
They're
week.
probably taking like Little House on the Prairie baths.
Yeah.
Same bath water that was warmed up. But then again, you got a lot of people to help clean.
Yeah.
So that shower might have been cleaned 4 or 5 times a day. No, who am I kidding? They didn't take
They
showers.
didn't
Come
take
on.
showers. Like
You're living off the land, man.
have all that from under.
Whoa. Palmenta cheese.
Yeah. Oh, it's disgusting.
Dave, come over here, Dave.
Speaking of rabbit holes, we're going down something pretty fucking disgusting.
All right.
All right, so we'll go into.
Dave, you want to braid my pubic hair, Dave?
Oh God.
We can make a bra. You can braid it from my armpit up to my. Sorry, go ahead. Come on, we're getting out of track here.
All right, so this next theory, it's called the drug burn theory. Now, at face value, about this whole fucking drug operation going on, but when you actually dive into like what was occurring, according to this theory, like you're talking like satanic rituals, you're talking sadomasochist fucking orgies, and it spirals. And this is just the victims. We're not talking about the Manson family. We'll jump into it. You'll see what I'm talking about in chapter 3.
Yeah, this one gets a little wild.
The drug burn theory has always had traction. From the moment police arrived on the scene at 10050 Cielo Drive, it was apparent that drugs may have played a vital role in the deaths of Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, and Wojtek Frykowski. Inside Sebring's Porsche, police found a bag of marijuana, vials of cocaine, and a brown gummy substance believed to be a narcotic. Inside the house, sporadic locations with marijuana, capsules of MDA, brown, green, and yellow identified tablets throughout. During their autopsies, it was said that Tate was found with a trace amount of THC in her system, but was redacted from her final autopsy report as to not sully her name. They didn't find any drugs in Jay Sebring's system, but they also didn't test for MDA. Abigail Folger had 2.4 milligrams of MDA in her bloodstream, and Wojtek Frykowski had 0.6 milligrams of MDA in his urine. According to the book, The Manson File, by Nicholas Schreck, the murders at Cielo Drive occurred because Tex Watson wanted to muscle his way on a large drug deal going on at the home between Frykowski, Folger, and Sebring, and a supplier. Watson, a small-time drug dealer, got wind of the deal and that Frykowski and Sebring, with Folger as their financier, were about to make a major push into LA drug scene, and Tex and the family wanted them out of the picture. According to Sebring's receptionist, there was to be a major drug transaction of mescaline and cocaine at Cielo Drive on the night of the murders between a mafia supplier and Frykowski and Sebring. The receptionist confirmed that the delivery had taken place, but no large quantities of drugs were found after their murders, leading people who believe in the drug burn theory that Tex Watson and the girls made off with the drugs. It goes a bit deeper than just Cielo Drive. It was also believed that the murder of Gary Hinman, who was a dealer and allegedly had a mescaline lab in his basement, was killed for the same reason. It's also alleged that the victims of the Tate murders and the Manson family knew each other, or at least knew of each other. In Michael Caine's autobiography, he states that he attended a party hosted by Mama Cass Elliott of the Mama and Papas and was introduced to Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring. At the same party, he was also introduced to Charles Manson, Tex Watson, and some of the girls, meaning that the Manson family was important enough in that inner circle to be given an introduction. Abigail Folger and Wojtek Frykowski were also frequent guests of Mama Cass's parties. It was alleged that a day prior to the murders, Manson himself showed up at Cielo Drive to sell Frykowski and Sebring cocaine and marijuana. Manson showed them the product and was beaten up by the two men and kicked off the property. Did they steal Manson's drugs in the beating? In retaliation, Manson ordered the murders of everyone inside that house, with Frykowski, the dealer, and Folger, the financier, receiving the majority of the brutality. But how does this fit in with the LaBiancas? It is believed that Tex Watson, Jay Sebring, and Rosemary LaBianca all had connections in the wig industry, with Tex formerly working as a wig salesman, Sebring in the hair industry, and Rosemary in the beauty industry. Rosemary's wealth far exceeded what her company was believed to provide, and it has been alleged that Rosemary was running a drug operation out of her mobile and storefront dress shops. But this was only corroborated by anonymous sources. To put this all together, Gary Hinman, a prominent dealer who had a mescaline lab in his basement, Frykowski and Folger had a direct line to sell and distribute MDA, and Rosemary LaBianca had a drug operation run out of her dress shops. Now they are all dead, and it would leave Tex Watson, Charles Manson, and the family as the main distributors of drugs in their area. What I find fascinating about this whole theory is that, like, Mama Cass Elliot from the Mamas and Papas would have these parties and whatnot, and like Manson, Tex, Susan Atkins, like pretty much, like the key players of the Manson family, they're all part of this Hollywood inner circle. You know what I mean? And this has been corroborated a few times. So, I mean, it's not crazy to think that the Manson family had ties with Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, Frykowski.
For sure. I mean, people don't realize that at this point, the family has become a criminal organization. They are selling drugs. They're buying guns. They're like, yeah. You know what I mean? And then at that point, the Hollywood upper echelon already knows that, about Spawn Ranch and this hippie commune where you go buy good acid and this and that. There's a very, Folger was found with MDMA in her body. They were obviously, I mean, everybody knows that's the orgy drug right there. Yeah. We stated in the story, the story that they would have frequent orgies and sex parties and all that stuff where drugs were heavily involved. It's pretty cut and dry that they could have been buying drugs off the family for a long time.
And then when Frykowski and Folger, they had connections to a major drug supplier where Frykowski was now going to be like the premier distributor of MDA and mescaline and all that, with Folger as his financier. That could raise some issues with
little drug turf, especially when Charlie was trying to build up his army.
Exactly, because that was their primary source of income,
for sure,
was drugs.
That's another thing too, is I don't think people realize how big of a drug organization that the family had. I think it's swept under that there were these peaceful hippies and stuff like that, but they were running a major drug operation out of that fucking ranch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're gonna sweep all this. These are high profile people. They're gonna sweep it under the rug and make it look like just a bunch of hippies are crazy. That these people wouldn't be just having weird massive orgies, drug fueled orgies, and buying drugs from hippies and this big criminal ring going on. Like,
numerous people have stated, even police officers that were like off the record stated that when they went to the Tate house after the murders, they found all this drug paraphernalia.
Sure.
They found S&M, fucking satanic fucking shit, like black hoods and leather and also, you know what I mean? Like, they're all into that fucking
hear me out.
Freaky shit.
Yeah, but back in 1969, to them, that's crazy. You know what I mean? You're talking about men who had missionary sex for the rest of their whole life. You know what I mean? 1969, there was some strong conservative men in the world that ran the world at that point. Well, Hollywood, nowadays it's not too crazy to see a full chain and leather gag mask in somebody's closet. You know what I mean?
especially when you're talking about an actress. At this time, he's an up and coming director in Roman Polanski. You have the heiress to the fucking Folger company,
who in 1969 Folger was, you remember the commercials?
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much the only coffee around was Folgers. So
make your husband a great cup of Folgers. And then wash the... No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Your husband comes home from a hard day at work.
Yeah, it's always...
Have his Folgers ready for him when he walks in the door.
It's all based around the man.
Yeah.
All right, keep going. We're getting lost.
So, it makes sense that, when they show up, they see all that shit and they're like, fuck, you know, these are some pretty big time names here. Let's kind of like, sweep it under the rug. And there were, again, a lot of people noted that there were videos of these sadomasochists, orgies and whatnot, and Polanski, videotaping 3-ways with fucking Sharon Tate and all this other kind of crazy.
You know what's kind of funny?
Yeah.
It's just solidified that Hollywood's always been weird. Even the 60s, it was weird.
Yeah.
Imagine what they're doing now.
I know. So when you talk about like all them being in this inner circle and them knowing each other or brushing shoulders with each other at parties and all this other kind of stuff, it makes it a bit clearer now that when Susan Atkins and Patricia Krenwinkel walked by Abigail Folger's room. Remember that from the story?
Yeah, she knew that.
And she was like, hi, and smiled at him. Well, she fucking knew them.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
It makes total sense.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Susan.
Yeah.
Hey, Patricia.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we're fucking killing you tonight, so go fuck yourself.
Yeah, that fits the bill.
When I started reading this theory, I'm like, it all fucking makes sense. You know what I mean? Why? Because when I first heard that, Abigail Folger was like, oh, hi, it's fucking strangers walking by.
Yeah.
Who the fuck does that? I don't care.
I brought that up in that.
I don't care if it's, like if it's the 60s or not, and open door policy and everything, like I get it, but it's fucking past midnight and random people just fucking walk past your room. Like, I don't care if I know you or not. I'm going to be like, Garrett, what the fuck are you doing here? It's fucking midnight.
Relax, I just want to take some pictures, Dave.
Take some pictures.
Get the camera. Get the camera.
You know what I mean? So, like, this all totally makes sense. And, yeah. If there is one, I would say two so far that I would go with is the copycat theory, which makes total sense, and the drug burn theory.
And the drug burn theory gets a little wild because then you realize it's a whole
fucking
wrapped up web and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's there. There is. You can't tell me it doesn't make sense. It fits.
Yep. So now next we will go into Garrett's favorite theory.
They're making the frogs gay. The CIA wants to mind control you.
So we'll go into what they call the Patsy theory, which involves CIA, MK Ultra, and a whole bunch of crazy shit here in Chapter 4. MK Ultra was a program facilitated by the CIA, officially from 1953 to 1973, in which the CIA would conduct experiments on individuals, sometimes unknowingly, to assess the use of LSD and other drugs for mind control, counterintelligence, and psychological torture. The origin of MK Ultra was approved by then CIA Director Allen Dulles to develop techniques that could be used against the Soviets, China, and North Korea. But before we could use the techniques on our enemies, we had to test them on our own people. The program initially used 150 human subjects to conduct experiments using psychedelic drugs, paralytics, and electroshock therapy. The total number of human subjects may never be known, as the CIA destroyed most of their documents related to MK Ultra in 1973. The tests were mainly conducted at hospitals, universities, and prisons throughout the US and Canada. Under the direction of chemist Sidney Gottlieb, it was believed he would be able to harness LSD's mind-altering effects for the use in brainwashing, psychological torture, and implanting false memories, and its ultimate goal, creating the perfect assassin. He oversaw studies at notable universities such as Columbia and Stanford University. Gottlieb also conducted experiments in mescaline, heroin, MDMA, methamphetamines, and mushrooms. MK Ultra eventually branched off into more seedy laboratories, including what they called safe houses, and a side project MK Ultra called Operation Midnight Climax. It was in these locations that prostitutes employed by the CIA would lure men into the safe house and lace their drinks with mind-altering drugs, while agents monitored from behind a two-way mirror from another room. These experiments were conducted primarily in San Francisco, California, and New York City, and it was in 1967 when Manson would become involved. Manson's parole officer, a man by the name of Roger Smith, was a Berkeley doctoral student who was part of a federally funded LSD research program through his work at the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, which possibly answers the question that as Manson's parole officer, why didn't he send Manson back to prison for his drug use? Another man, Lewis West, who was also part of the program through the Free Medical Clinic, took ownership of a worn-down Victorian home next to the clinic and set it up as a hippie crash pad to further study the mind-altering effects of LSD. Which now brings us full circle. Lewis West worked for CIA chemist Sidney Gottlieb, the head of MK Ultra. Now let's connect the dots. Roger Smith was Manson's parole officer. Smith also worked for the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, which received federal funding through the CIA. Smith worked alongside researcher Lewis West, who directly worked for Sidney Gottlieb, the head of MK Ultra. Manson and his commune of runaways and drug addicts would eventually leave San Francisco for Los Angeles, another parole violation which he didn't go back to jail for. This move would appear to end his involvement in the MK Ultra program. However, sometime in late 1968, a man by the name of Alan Rose, an assistant researcher for the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, would make his way to Spahn Ranch and would fully immerse himself within the commune for a period of 4 months. What interest would the CIA have in Manson and the hippie movement? They were all about peace, love, and free thinking, weren't they? To an extent. They were also anti-government, conducted violent protests against the war in Vietnam, criticized middle-class values and expectations, and to the CIA, were a problem to the way of life in America and to the way the American government conducted business. They had to stop the spread of the hippie movement. Insert MK Ultra, Charles Manson, and his LSD-fueled family. One would be hard-pressed to argue against the hippie movement ending on the hot summer nights of August 9th and August 10th, 1969.
Okay, let's start it off by MK Ultra. It's wild to think that we, the United States of America, were so afraid of the Soviets at this point that we willingly and openly conducted mind control experiments on the public. Like this is not conspiracy theory. This is true. This is true. They have been redacted. Like
factual.
They're extremely redacted statements or documents. So we don't know the full extent of it, which is even scarier. But the fact that we were trying to mind control the population of just random drug addicts on the street is crazy.
And it escalated.
And this is 1969.
Yeah, it escalated because they started off with this for counterintelligence and kind of like loosen their lower their inhibitions to basically basically get information and everything like that. But it actually escalated into how can we create the perfect assassin?
Correct.
And
like I said, this is in the documents.
Yes.
That
now a little side note, fucking Sirhan, who killed Robert Kennedy, claims that he has no recollection of doing that. He had no idea what he was doing at the hotel.
Now, also too is
not to go off topic.
When you look at because then we can start saying James Holmes of the Colorado shooter had no recollection of what he was doing either. Also too is when you look at Manson's criminal history, that man should have spent majority of his life in jail, but somehow men in suits would show up. I know I'm using a bold statement, but somebody with higher authorization would be like, nope, let him go.
Yeah.
Multiple times throughout his life. He should have been staying in jail his whole life at that point.
Right.
He committed many crimes. And somehow
even when he was on parole, he never went back to jail. When he got released in 1967, he got with his parole officer and he was still getting arrested. He was leaving the state. He was doing all this fucking kind of shit that you're not supposed to do on parole. And they're just like, go ahead, keep at it.
Yeah, no, he's all set. He's all set.
Good. He's good.
They probably were. I mean, honestly, if you're looking for mind control experiments and you're studying subjects, Manson would be a very good subject to train. And obviously we're going down later in the end of the story where was he the CIA plant to end the 60s peace loving movement? Because you got to realize too is MK Ultra, they canceled this. They stopped doing acid because they realized that it made people too self-aware.
Yeah.
And they were too open-minded, and it was actually went against with what they were trying to do. It made people wake up and realize how,
Yeah, they started getting into like MDA and
yeah, they started using other things. So that's the last thing they wanted to do was realize that the population was they didn't want the population to wake up to what especially
really
1969.
Yeah,
and the laws and the oppression that had on everybody.
The thing that's also kind of opens your eyes, and it could be just random people just crossing paths, doesn't have anything to do, any backstory to it whatsoever. But it just, my whole thing is that when there's a lot of coincidences, then it's hard not to look at it as factual. So, you had Manson's parole officer who had like 40 fucking clients, and then when Manson gets released, now it's only Manson.
Yeah.
He's set up in the Haight-Ashbury section of San Francisco where Manson is. They run a fucking free clinic, that a parole officer is also part of the free clinic, which is run by somebody who has known associations with the CIA.
Yep.
And they're all doing tests with LSD and how drugs affect the fucking community and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and they were also using mind control techniques on them while under the influence. Exactly what Manson was doing to his followers.
Exactly.
So all he's taken is the CIA. It's Jason Bourne, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we're joking, but you're teaching this man how to do it.
Yeah.
He's not dumb. He's gonna develop these, and then he goes and does your job and what you're trying to do better than what you did. You can't tell me that CIA doesn't have a reason to control an asset at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to get this guy off the street. Let's, do whatever.
Right.
The one thing that doesn't line up, though, is at this point, it's been years past. Now, Manson's brain...
That's our new co-host, Hanya.
Manson's brain is fried. So I don't think he would even understand that he,
Was it fried, though?
I think so, too, because what do you have to lose at that point? To not expose everything, because
Right.
he never came out and said that anything about the CIA or anything. He never
Right, yeah.
followed up into those theories. But the followers have come out and spoke against and realized that Manson ruined their lives, and they came to eventually. Well, most of them. I'm surprised that they haven't talked more about alternate theories or all that stuff. They still run with the helter-skelter theory
Yeah.
and all that stuff. But then again, they probably just believed it. If anybody was behind it, it was Manson.
Right. Yeah, so I came across a couple of things here, and then one of them was a government whistleblower. His name was Charles Schlund. He suggests that the murders may have, in fact, been a social experiment and covert operation carried out by the CIA to put an end to the hippie movement. Schlund was an investigative journalist, and he spoke of a huge cache of documents that he called the Don Bolles papers, which were discovered in a robbery in 1970s. Now, Charles Schlund, he states the war was going badly, and the American people were protesting in ever greater numbers with pictures of pretty flower girls on TV nightly. The CIA needed a way of showing the American people that these pretty little flower girls were really Satanists and evil, and that the government was right and just in the Vietnam War.
God, I love it. I love it because it makes so much sense.
Now, to do this, the government needed to conduct a massive covert operation to convince the American people that these little flower girls were evil, and the free love and peace they talked of was really to cover up this evil.
At this point, too, the Vietnam War was severely hated.
Oh, yeah.
And the approval ratings of the president at the time and all were through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
So it was almost like its own anti-government. There was an anti-government movement across the entire nation. It was big in the hippie movement, but everybody felt that way at that point. Why,
Now, Schlund, who's now deceased, he said the heist of documents were indeed immensely valuable and included, amongst other things, evidence of Operation Northwood. You know that one?
Yes, of course. Well, here, this is the thing, too, is to anybody who's listening to this podcast and realizing, thinking in their head, no, they couldn't do that. Look at all the CIA. The CIA was shady as fuck in the 60s.
And the new one where the CIA has been quote-unquote confirmed to be behind the killing of the assassination of JFK.
Yeah, we could do a whole other episode on that, too.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. America's interests. Anything, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever benefits the interests of America. That was that mindset back in the 50s and 60s with the CIA.
Because I know we're getting off topic, but I know that during Kennedy's presidency, it was well known that if he got reelected, he was withdrawing from Vietnam, which is basically giving a victory to communism and the Soviets. And there were numerous upper tier politicians who were against pulling out. So they were like, no, we can't let this happen. Okay, that's a whole nother fucking rabbit hole.
I was going to say.
All right.
Conspiracy Davy over here.
So anyway, so Schlund, he says that these documents included evidence of Operation Northwood, the MK Ultra experiments, and detailed information on the CIA's involvement in the Manson family murders.
Boom.
As well as hundreds of other incidents. Schlund, he filed a notice of claim before the courts, documenting his intent to sue then United States President George W. Bush regarding the document suppression, but the suit was never actually filed and it never went to trial. Now, another interesting thing about MK Ultra is that it wasn't just like a secret covert operation. You know, people were actually tested openly.
Yeah, there was civilians working on that project.
Right.
That was one of the main reasons why the CIA had to release everything, because there were so many people involved, therapists, doctors, and stuff like that involved in it.
Yeah. So there's some people of note who willingly volunteered for MK Ultra.
Shit, I would do it too. No, I'm just
and that was Robert Hunter. He was from the band Grateful Dead. Go figure. But a couple of other people was Ted Kaczynski. You know who that is?
No.
The Unabomber. Okay. And Boston mobster James Weddy Bulger.
Wow, interesting how
They were willing
some of the
participants.
most, you know.
Yeah. Now, here's a little side note. Take it how you will. But the Folger family were known to have donated large amounts of money to the programs at the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, where allegedly, according to this theory, the vast majority of the mind control experiments were conducted on the Manson family.
I mean, you got to take that with a grain of salt too, though, because the Folger.
Oh, that's what I said. Take it how you want.
But it is crazy how it's all connected.
How it's all,
you know what I mean?
That little snippet right there connects the MK Ultra. It connects the drug burn theory. You know that the Folgers were involved in all this fucking kind of shit. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Something to think about.
Was the Folger company just donating to people in need, or was there more to it?
That's a good question.
Dun 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 dun.
Next time. No.
Next time on Conspiracy Theories with Dave and Garrett.
Yeah, I just want to point out, you know, something totally different that I came across that isn't so much, you know, alternate theory, but it is interesting to note. There are a few unsolved murders that may have possibly been committed by the Manson family. The first was the murders of 15-year-old James Sharp and 19-year-old Doreen Gall, who were found in an alley in November of 1969, not far from where the Tate murders occurred. And they had similar characteristics to the Tate LaBianca murders, meaning that they were stabbed far more than they needed to be stabbed. Now, both James and Doreen had been former members of a splinter group associated with Scientology called the Process Church of the Final Judgment. And Manson himself...
Oh, so another cult?
Yes. So Manson himself was also associated with the Process cult, and he borrowed some of their ideologies. So they're all interconnected. Scientology, the Process Church, Manson family, they all share the same fucking philosophies, you know what I mean? That is could be just mere coincidence, you know?
Sure, but it's noted to say.
Right. Now, also in November of 1969, the body of an unidentified woman was found not far from the Manson compound at Spawn Ranch. The young woman was stabbed 157 times. She was only known as Jane Doe number 59 until 2016, when her autopsy photo, you know, how if your body's still in good shape, they'll take a picture of your face and kind of doctor it up to make it look whatever. So a friend of the family saw the picture 40 some odd years later. They'd be like, hey, that looks like, you know, this person, you know. So, and through DNA evidence, it was confirmed that the woman was 19-year-old Reet Jurvetson. Now, a year prior to Reet Jurvetson's body being found, another young woman was found murdered in December of 1968 in close proximity of where Jurvetson's body was disposed of near Spawn Ranch. Marina Habe was stabbed numerous times in Manson-esque overkill fashion. It was believed to have been stabbed by more than one person. Now, you have 4 victims, all within well-known Manson locations, dead. Now, the final one is an attorney for Leslie Van Houten disappeared during a recess for the trial in November of 1970. Ronald Hughes' badly decomposed body was found between two boulders in Ventura County. While his death was ruled an accident due to flash floods that had occurred during that time of his disappearance.
Sounds a little suspect to me.
Yeah. At least one member of the family, Sandra Good, claimed that Hughes was murdered by Manson's followers as retaliation for his perceived poor defense of Van Houten.
Makes sense. And that's connected. That's got to be connected 100%.
Yeah.
There's too many strings that lead it. If you want to talk about alternate theories and all this stuff, and even the murders, even if you go with the Helter Skelter, theme, it's amazing how much influence a bunch of hippies that lived in on a hippie commune in the middle of the California hills had on. They had a chokehold on that area, and it blows my mind. Is like, say CIA, say the Helter Skelter, any theory that you want. I still can't believe the impact that ragtag bunch of weirdos had on that time period.
And it goes, and like I said, it goes very, very, very deep. Like you turn a corner and it splits off again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the amount of the reach that the Manson family had during this time in this particular area. It crossed from people who left their house because they're being abused by their father, up to an heiress to a coffee fortune.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
To a pop, to the one of the biggest rock bands in the world.
Yeah,
like it's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
It's so much more than just some dirty, smelly hippies, doing acid on the side of a hill in California. Right. It's crazy.
Preaching the Beatles album. Yeah. So that'll do it for alternate theories. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Before we go, if you like what you heard, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a review, please. And don't forget to become one of our amazing criminals on Patreon. Visit criminalafpodcast.com/support. There's 5 tiers, and you can donate as little as $2 a month to help the podcast. You can also find links to our Buy Me a Coffee, socials, merchandise, and more at criminalafpodcast.com. Now, signing off from Studio Chloroform, keep your head on a swivel, and take care till next time. Now give me our theme music! See ya!